Hey, assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope everyone's having having a good time this Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak. Actually, I should say that first. So, I'm going to be responding to, or I guess just commenting on a focus group we did recently for my podcast. Alhamdulillah. First, I'll start with the good news. There's been a lot of support, a lot of positive feedback, a lot of demand. There aren't. It turns out. I mean, I kind of already assumed this, but it turns out there aren't a lot of Muslim podcasters. Like, period. There and if there, oh, pardon me. And if there are, there's virtually no Muslim podcasters who talk about tech, business, life. Um, so I'm very unique being a Muslim podcaster that I'm talking about topics that people are interested in. There are some podcasters who talk about Islam and Deen and Quran and all of that is vital. I mean, that's more important than me. I will never say that that's not important, but I would say that that's sort of that's being done, and I think I see more and more people getting into that space, which alhamdulillah they should, I don't want it to seem like, oh, that's not important. It is important, but other things are also important, and there aren't people who are like there's no Muslim podcasters talking about topics like getting a career, being successful in your career, or mental health. I mean, that's another topic that's neglected. We don't have Muslims who add that sort of Islamic lens um, when talking about mental health. There's non-Muslims talking about mental health. There's non-Muslims talking about career stuff. That's fine. But we need Desi people in this space. We need Muslim people in this space. And I'm happy to occupy this space and hopefully inspire others to get in on this. I'm very happy with the feedback that people said, like, finally we have a Muslim podcaster, a role model for, my high school kids. We have people, we have someone who's giving me advice that my parents can't give me because they're so, they're older, their advice doesn't work anymore. So thank you for sharing your mistakes and more importantly, your success stories, your steps and advices and hacks and all that stuff. So just reading the comments was very heartwarming, and it fit in line with what I already knew because the podcast was never something I did on a whim. I did it based on demand. I'm a data practitioner, data-driven decision making. I made the podcast because people in my network, which is thousands of people, well, I say thousands, it's like 2,000 something hundred, but yeah, people in my network, people I know who I've met throughout the U.S., have told me at one time and another that Muhammad, you present well. I don't know how true that is, and I'll tell you why later. But you present well, you communicate intelligently, and you're not selling anything. That's the great thing about my podcast is that I never sell someone else's services. I might endorse a guest who came on, but that's obviously it's a reciprocity. You have to thank your guest for coming on, and if they provide a service you like, you thank them and support that service. But I myself don't try to sell anything or push anyone to anything that would cost them money, time, or resources because I'm very mindful of how scarce resources are right now. So I already knew ahead of time that there was a demand and people would appreciate it. But to see people outside my network, people who I don't know, saying things like "Thank you for it's the small things, right? Like thank you for having the beer, thank you for saying Assalamu alaikum to your guests, saying thank you for saying inshallah or mashallah. Like we like that you're kind of unapologetically Muslim on your podcast. We like that you mention being Hafiz of Quran as a pride. Like you talk about being involved with your family. You're very close to your family. Like that's something we like, right? Kids drift away from their families, that concerns parents. People drift away from the masjid, that concerns parents. And they look for mentorships with folks who aren't invested in their interests because they're not part of that community. I'm involved in my community, and I like my mentees to be Muslim. I take on Muslim mentees. I don't think I have ever had any non-Muslim mentees because I want to elevate our people. I want to take care of our people who are living in a country where it's very competitive. It's very hard to live in. So I'm just very grateful for the positive feedback, and I'm very happy that people just had wonderful things to say. And I'll continue producing content when I can because this is, I guess you would say, a hobby of mine. It's honestly, I like sharing my anecdotes here because it serves as marketing material. I've actually had clients who have scoped me out here before reaching out to me, and then they'll tell me, like, I'll use a line where I've said it in the podcast, and they'll go like, aha, like, we heard that. For example, I recently was talking to a client who handles logistics, and I was talking about like, let's take a step back. I just want to make sure we're having the right conversations, right? That is a line that I use when consulting. That's a line I've actually used in one of my many podcasts. I can't narrow it down because I have like 90 plus at this point. And he was like, I've heard you say that. I've heard you say that. Like now I know it's a line. Like now I know it's you say that frequently. And I was like, it is. I mean, there are some things, phrases you're going to use. So yeah, that's the cool thing is like, I'll keep producing content, but I'm also mindful that I don't want to get drawn in. I don't see it as a way to monetize. I don't see it as a way to make money. It's really just a service for the community because I've already gained my experience. I've already made my mistakes. I've already had my hardships. Um, it costs me nothing to share them with you so that you can maybe avoid them, because why should I suffer in silence and then you maybe make the same mistake I've made because I didn't talk to you, I didn't communicate or share these things with you. So that's what I like about the podcast is that it exists to really just educate others at a larger scale. Like I mentor people, sure, on an individual level, but the podcast exists to elevate, more and more audiences, throughout the U.S., inshallah, and internationally because we have international interests. So I'm very, very pleased with that. So I talked about the focus group. I didn't talk about how it happened. A brother reached out to me and asked me if I'd ever done a focus group for my podcast. I said no, and he and I coordinated a few times. I wasn't interested because I am doing this as a hobby. So for me to be like more lean or efficient or productive or for me to like I guess make money, that wasn't a priority for me. It wasn't a concern. He kind of approached it like, oh, I can help you with your SEO optimization. I can help you with the YouTube algorithm. I can help you with the promotions. And I said, look, alhamdulillah, it's all word of mouth. The people I mentor and I share this with, they then tell their family and friends. I mean, that's how we've grown, alhamdulillah. We have hundreds of listeners in just a couple of months, and that's huge, but it's because my content is free, my content is relevant, and my content is rare. You don't have Muslim CIOs on these podcasts. You don't have Muslim CIOs taking questions. You don't have Muslim CIOs introducing new guests who then share their stories and their journey. I do that, and I do that for free. So the brother approached me. He was really looking for a way to help me monetize so that he could possibly make something. But I was very clear that, look, I'm happy to obtain your services, but I don't want you to approach this with the lens like, how can we make money off this? It's just more, I guess, how can I make my content easier to digest? How can I make it more attractive so people will tune in? But there's no products being sold here. I don't even run any advertisements, right? So it's absolutely free. And if I do run advertisements, it would probably be just, I guess, a happenance. It might just happen if YouTube, I guess, puts ads on my video. I might not ask for it, or if Spotify starts running ads, that would most likely be independent of me. But yeah, so I worked with the brother. He set up everything in Texas on his end, and then he just gave me the findings. I'm gonna have to turn this off. I have like a really annoying notification. Interesting. Even though I put my computer on Do Not Disturb, WhatsApp notifications still come through, so that's a problem. But anyway, he set everything up, and it took a couple of weeks. He asked me for a lot of information. What platforms are we on? He asked me kind of where are we right now? What do our metrics look like? I don't really share my metrics, but because this was kind of needed, I guess he just wanted to see like, how can we see if we're improving? Like, where are we right now? And how can we, in a few weeks, see if we're growing organically? So I shared some of that information with him. And, there was a lot of feedback, comments, anonymous feedback, obviously. So I went through it with him. We just looked for trends and commonalities. And what I like is, I mentioned before, people are just happy to see a proud Muslim brother in front of the camera, using the Islamic terms, and providing real advice, man. Talking about firing people, having a difficult employee, being sabotaged at work, being bad at interviews, or how to get through interviews, how to look for a job, how to use your college's free resources, how to get through college in one piece. Um, I talk about things that are relevant. I talk about how the workload is different at a management level than individual level or C level. Right? I talk about different industries, different cities, all of these things. So people were just grateful, and I was very happy to see what they were saying. A lot of cute comments too. Like you could tell some comments from some uncles. They're like, "Mashallah, good job," and I was like, "Wow." Because the prompt I think was like, "How can we improve?" And they're like, "Oh, mashallah, good," or "Good job, bacha," or "Shabash," and I'm just like, I appreciate it, but I was like, "This doesn't help me." And then some people wrote essays, which I appreciated. I also went through them. If you had actually, hold on. There's one person who wrote. They had like a 3 long paragraph, like I think it was like 10,000 characters or something. Like it was very very long feedback. It was positive feedback, but it was like a lot. So if that person watches this, I would actually love for you to get in touch with me because it was actually very well spoken. It was very interesting. But all of this feedback is obviously anonymous. But that person, they had a lot of good feedback, and one thing they touched on was actually important, which was they encouraged me to get some co-hosts. I've actually beaten you to the punch. Before I got my feedback, I was actually looking. I actually put out the ad for 2 co-hosts, a brother and sister, or possibly 2 sisters, just to kind of bring in those perspectives, those point of views. I'm very aware that obviously when I speak from the male point of view. So I am aware that people do want to see a sister on the screen and get her feedback. And also when we have guest appearances, I think it'd also be more organic, kind of having 2 co-hosts, asking the questions one after the other, stuff like that. So yeah, but the points that were raised in the very long like comment, I actually liked it. It was very well spoken, and it was someone I could tell this is someone who was invested in my channel, invested in my success. So thank you for that. So with that said, I mean obviously we have all the good feedback, all the stuff. Um, a lot of people are using Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That I already knew that because I see the metrics. But then when I look at the comments, they were also like, and we're only going to continue to do so. So please, like, don't feel like you have to use your Amazon or Audible or Anchor or Google Podcast or YouTube and TikTok or even Facebook. I have my videos on Facebook. I think Facebook has like 0 views. They were like, just abandon it. Like, don't worry about it. But yeah, so that's all the good stuff. Alhamdulillah. Those are the things that are uplifting. Those are the things that are supportive. Now I'll go for the things that are not so supportive. That are, I guess, I don't want to say controversial or scandalous. Like it was very few comments that were negative, and quite frankly, they actually weren't negative in the way that hurt my feelings or insulting. One person wrote, "Hey, so you present very well in audio. Like I'm listening on Spotify. In your Spotify podcast, you'll actually link to your YouTube channel or you reference your YouTube channel. I've checked you out on YouTube, and your video quality could be better." Which is true. I do this on a MacBook. So, the MacBook webcam is, I think, 480p, maybe 720. But even if we say 720, that just means there's a certain number of pixels. I don't know how big the pixels are, how much detail they allow in. So he said the video quality is kind of meh, which is fine. This is not being done professionally. He also said, even your background isn't like A+. I don't have a studio. I actually film a lot of these on the go. So you might see me, if you see me with like cabinets behind me, I'm probably actually shooting it at my masjid, the Islamic Center of Rockland. Just because I might just be there and I have something quick to record. If you see like a white wall behind me, I might be home. If you see this, I might be somewhere else. So that's the thing is I don't want to get a studio, rent a space, get the equipment. It's not meant to be professional. What matters is the message. It's not so much the optics. So people didn't like how I present on video. In terms of my environment, people don't like the quality of the video. Oh, and they also didn't like my leather jacket. I got a lot of hatred for that. Sorry, I shouldn't say hatred. I'm just saying it to exaggerate and embellish. But a few people were like, "Hey, like, uncle, why are you trying to recapture your youth? Why are you trying to look younger, more relatable? Just let go. You're old now. You don't have to look young to, we appreciate your message, but it's cringe to see an uncle with like trying to make his hair look nice and he's wearing a leather jacket, trying to look tough. And he mentions he's from New York all the time to look cool. And I was like, what's wrong with you guys? I am in New York. the reason I have the leather jacket on is because the entire wall to the side of me is glass, and I get cold. So I just wear the leather jacket because it's like the nearest jacket to me. It's not part of a look or a brand. I'm not trying to look cool. So when they said that, I was like, come on. And it was only like 2 to 3 people who made these comments out of the dozens, alhamdulillah, that were positive. But it stuck with me. I said maybe I should not do a leather jacket. Next time I'll just put on like a sweater or something. Because I don't want people thinking I'm sending a message by wearing a leather jacket. As for mentioning I'm in New York, I do that because I actually travel a lot for work. And I do like to note where I am because, it's just something to mention, I guess. So the leather jacket was a negative. My background or environment was a negative, which again, doesn't matter, right? The leather jacket is inconsequential. The quality of the camera is inconsequential because I'm not showing any visual aids or anything that you need to see in high definition, right? It's all about the message. The video is just sort of an add-on or something to benefit from. What else did they say? God, they had, oh my God, this is my favorite. One brother was like, I hate the way, and he's like, I apologize for saying the word hate, but he said, I truly hate the way where, like, I press play, and sometimes I feel like you're in the middle of a conversation. Like, he said, you just immediately start talking. When I press play on something, I'm used to there being some sort of intro music, or a gap, or someone saying, hey, how's everyone doing? Today I want to talk about this. He's like, as soon as you start talking, like as soon as I hit play, like you immediately launch into your topic, and he said there's like a little bit of whiplash when it comes to that, like mental whiplash. So I was like, okay, you know what? The leather jacket, that is, I don't want to insult anyone who said this, but that's just a stupid thing to note down, right? It's nonsense. Same goes for the camera quality. It's like, who cares? Same goes for the background. I think, though, maybe I should take some time to ease people into my topic of discussion. Because I think it also goes for my guest appearances. Like, as soon as I hit play, there's no, like, riff-raff with my guests because that actually happens off camera. Well, it happens on camera, but me and my guests, we talk a little bit. Then my guest or I will say, okay, are we ready? We'll say 3, 2, 1. And then I'll launch into it. So, I'll say, hey, assalamu alaikum, thank you for joining me. But that guy joined me like 10 minutes ago, and we talked for 10 minutes, and then we get into podcast mode. So I think this was the only feedback that made sense. I keep lying because I keep saying that's it, then I forget. I remember one more piece. One person did say, like, my piece of advice is don't post on TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube because, your content doesn't really cater to those things. Like, TikTok is about purely short-term, like, entertainment. Same goes for Instagram. Like, don't post on Instagram because it's all just about a little bit of entertainment. They said Facebook has kind of been abandoned. Like, nobody's going on a Facebook page for my business. I have these videos under my business page, Chaudhry Enterprise Solutions. If you go to, like, photos or videos, you'll find some of these podcasts. So they said, yeah, please don't, like, post on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. Like, these are not for YouTube, especially because they said, like, you don't have clickbait titles, you don't have clickbait thumbnails where you're making like a surprise face or you're going like, I can't believe people aren't doing this hack, or I don't know, this hack will change your life. That's not me. I don't like doing clickbait. I don't like catering to the algorithm or anything like that. But again, I also just want to maximize my platforms just because we never know what someone's using. And if someone has a certain app or website that they prefer and they want to hear my content, I should be on it. And especially because it costs me nothing, just a few clicks, upload, done, and then I'm on that platform. So with that said, that's just sort of a summary of the focus group and the results. I am happy though, alhamdulillah, that people have been respectful, people have been appreciative. And, I shoot these things haphazardly. I shoot them whenever I have time. It might be I get home early from a dinner with friends and I have a little bit of energy because it was an exciting night and I had some caffeine. So, I'll knock out a video or two. Or sometimes a meeting ends early and I have 25 minutes to the next meeting. I'll record a podcast then. But, even if I approach this haphazardly, I do take it seriously that people are benefiting, people are listening, people are appreciating. And, it is helping people. And alhamdulillah, I hope to continue doing so because, like I said before, I've already lived all these experiences. There's no reason you guys should have to live the same experience with the good and the bad. You should only have to endure the good and avoid the bad. So with that said, Jazakallah khair for listening, and I hope to produce more valuable content for you guys in the future. Assalamu alaikum.